Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Tired Mama Tries to Read. I'm just going to say sorry right off the bat for the noise that is occurring. I have got a very short window of time to film this video, and there is a digger right outside the shed. And I've put my fan heater on, which is quite noisy, but just to kind of drown that out. So normally I would never have this on while I'm filming. But I'm going to see what happens. If this goes wrong, I'll just do another video another time. But I've got a big stack of books, some of which I have read and some of which I haven't. I'm going to start with... Okay. Ooh, this is very precarious. Okay, don't look at how I'm stacking these because it'll upset you. Right. Okay, so I briefly touched upon this with my haul video, and I just want to confirm to you that it is amazing. Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. If you have got it, just put everything else aside and go into this. For me personally, the first couple of sections I didn't find as compelling, and I was a bit confused as to what was going on. Not as in like plot-wise, but I didn't really get what Evaristo was trying to do. But once you go into several characters, you're just completely sort of not overwhelmed, you're just consumed by what she's doing, and it's amazing, and the ending was spot on. I just loved it. So that was last month. That's a long time ago I read that. Then I ditched all of my books which you saw in my last video. I'm feeling much better for having done that. No more multi-reading for me. It does not work. Okay, I cannot multi-read. At the most I can have one buddy read going on in the background and a current read, but even that I find very stressful. So I don't know what that means for my future buddy reads. I'll talk a little bit more about one that I'm kind of hiding in the background of in a mo. This is a book that really picked me up when I was feeling bad. I am on the other side of my lavender fog that I was in last month, thank God. Anybody who's reached out to me, I just want to say massive thank you, by the way. It meant so much to me to have so many positive messages, and I had loads of messages through my Instagram as well. And you know, when I come on here and say that I'm not feeling great, I don't want to do it sort of, I'm not trying to sort of eke all of your energy out of you. I'm genuinely just, I would feel completely fake if I came on here and was smiling and happy when I'm not feeling that way. And also, I've had so many people come to me to say that they have similar experiences, and that has meant the world to me, that we've been able to share. And you know, I'm not saying that I can help anybody, because I definitely can't, but just sometimes knowing that someone else is going through it is all you need. So yeah, I'm feeling good today, but you know, if I feel bad next time, I will say, and it might get boring, but that's just how it is. So this book really helped. This was Transform Your Home, Create Your Sanctuary, and I heard about this book through my favourite booktuber, Shan of Shani Reads, and this is awesome. This is like a witchy guide to cleansing your home and making yourself feel good in your home. I'm all about the home. I live in a tiny bungalow. We've got too much stuff. There's too many people. You know, it's a bit chaotic, and I find that when I've got my anxiety, I like to try and clean and cleanse, and I end up filling bags and bags of stuff to go to charity, but I never quite feel like I know what I'm doing. Like, why am I doing it? What am I trying to achieve? This really helped me. If you're not into witchy stuff, this might not be the book for you. You know, there's a lot of crystals, there's some tarot, but in the sense that she says at the back, a spell is just a prayer with props. That's where it helped for me. It helped to focus me. It just helped to really inspire me, and definitely will be reclaiming the pagan person within now that I've read this. Then, so that I was kind of reading during my whole nightmare month. Then, to cleanse my palate, I decided to read, these books, you know, the ones that are kind of like moleskin, I think is what they're trying to pretend to be. I find that they get kind of sticky. I don't know if anyone else finds that, and stuff sticks to them. So they're not, I don't find that they're a pleasant tactile experience after like the first 30 pages, because they just start to get a bit yuck. Anyway, maybe just me. This is Once Upon a River by Diana Setterfield. This is not my type of book. If you follow me, you'll kind of know that. I tend not to read plotty books. I don't know what you class this as, historical fiction with a magical twist. It's set on the River Thames. Diane Setterfield loves the Thames by all accounts, and the descriptions of the river are really beautiful. I really enjoyed the nature descriptions 100%. It's about a little girl, a bit of a trigger warning here. I don't think it's as bad as it initially sounds, and I'll tell you why. Trigger warning is that a young girl of about 4 is found drowned in the river, and she's brought inside this pub, the Swan, and they lay her out, and then when a nurse goes back to check her, she comes back to life. So that's why the trigger warning is eased off a little bit, because it's obviously a magical setting, and for me personally, I found that okay. Normally, dead children, not interested, but I found that okay because I knew it was purely magical, it was very much historically set. I had some problems with this book. I really enjoyed the read. I tried to up the pace about halfway through because I was feeling better and I kind of wanted to get back to my normal type of reading, but I found that I was slowing down again in the last third of the book. So the book brought me back down and made me read slowly, which I think is a kind of testament to Setterfield's writing style. But a couple of things, I think a whole video would be needed to take up, so I'll just sort of briefly touch upon them. She tries to be quite diverse, and I don't think it works. So for instance, there's a character at the start, a young man who has Down syndrome, and it's not explicitly said that that's what he has, because at this time it wouldn't have been called that, but it's quite obvious by the physical description of him that that is what he has. And applauding Setterfield at this point, because yay, a Down syndrome character, how awesome is that? I got a little bit tired after the third description of his eyes slanting up and his tongue poking out. It's like, you've made your point, he's got Down syndrome, can't you focus on the fact, like the colour of his eyes, you know, or the meaning in his face? It wasn't, you know, as bad as maybe I'm making it sound now, but because his character stood out, and literally the first 3 times, separate times that you encounter him, she's just reminding you again that he's got Down syndrome. I just found that I found it offensive, basically. It could have just been me, but that was my take on it. And then the other thing that kind of ran through the book, and this runs through a lot of books, and wow, does it not get picked up on, gypsies being thieves, being bad people, being historically distant people who existed in the past, much like the Romans. You know, gypsies are real people, they exist today, they exist in this country. I don't know whether gypsies travel around America, but they certainly travel around Wales, they travel around the UK, they travel around, you know, they travel around Ireland. And with a whole narrative that every now and then touches upon the fact that the gypsies were by the river, and they're thieves and possibly murderers and kidnappers. And there's no part in the narrative where it says, you know, back then this is the prejudice that people had, and you know, little did they know that the gypsies themselves had lost children on the river, something like that, so that you knew that actually that was a prejudice from the time and not just a general opinion that we all have about gypsies, like they're aliens from another planet that we don't really think are real people. Didn't like it. Yes, and that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. So I can understand why the plot is really, really good, and I can understand why people might get absorbed in it, but for me, stuff like this is where wokeness doesn't quite get there. Oh, there was another one. I knew there was something else. There's a gentleman in here who is awesome. His name is Robert, and he's a black man. Again, this is Setterfield, I think, being diverse. He's the hero of the piece, really, and he's a wonderful character, but he puts an astounding amount of energy into stopping other people's racism by being kind, by ignoring their remarks, by raising himself up above them so that they'll see that he is something truly special and not the way they thought he was going to be. And he is special. He was given the education of a white man because his father was a gentleman. I got a whole host of issues with that, apart from the fact that the narrative never once discusses the emotional effort, you know, the exhaustion that Robert must feel having to go through this huge effort every single time you know, the way it drains people. And that is symptomatic of how it does drain black people or people of colour in general, when they are the ones having to make the effort to accommodate other people's prejudices, rather than calling those prejudices out and being angry, which is their right. Now, I know this is historical fiction, but it matters because it's adding to this larger picture of how we perceive people. So even if you think, oh, well, I know that gypsies don't really steal, is it fair to let a person get away with saying that several times in a book without answering, you know, without being answerable to that? Is it fair to have a black character written by a white woman who is just so accommodating and so wonderful that he even quite literally has Tweety birds landing on his shoulders because he's that much of a wonderful guy? Is it fair to put all that on him and leave all of the characters that are being massively racist towards him completely unanswerable to their crimes? Not once really being truly addressed by something horrible happening to them, or by somebody actually pointing out, somebody, not this gentleman, pointing out actually how you've behaved is really unfair. Now, I know it's historically set, but you can't say that and get away with things because it was written now. Okay, so I know these might be quite strong feelings, and I know that some people will have really enjoyed this book as a bit of escapism, so I'm going to stop now and just join you in the comments best I can. Okay, really quickly plough through these. I read Kate Bush's How to Be Invisible, which is a lovely collection of her lyrics, and I really enjoyed that. That's the sort of thing you need to read when you're feeling sad, because it takes you away from yourself. I also, this is the buddy read, so I can't even organise my books. This is the buddy read. This is Quiet by Susan Cain. I don't know if you can see it because the cover is super cool. And I am not actually reading this, but I'm listening to Shan of Shani Reads and her husband Bert, and I'm listening to Sarah from Your True Shelf, and I'm just eavesdropping on their conversation. And I've taken the introvert test, and you'll be pleased to hear I am an introvert. Shock horror. So yeah, now before I move on to the book I'm currently reading, I'm just going to say that my lovely friend Francesca bought me a gorgeous American edition of The Book of Night Women by Marlon James. She got this when she was in New York. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to her, because it's not often that I get to see the American edition actually here in my hands. I see it all the time on like Doris's channel, and I'm always jealous of her American editions when they, you know, outshine the British one, Ducks being one of them. But yeah, this was really nice, so thank you. And now on to the book that you should all read. Everybody should read it. I'm only halfway through, but this is Period Power by Maisie Hill. I adore this book. I love this book. I said to you before when I did it in my book haul that I didn't know if it was going to really teach me anything, because I kind of felt like I knew it all. But it has. It's taught me so much. I can't really describe how useful it is, and it's been particularly useful for me because one of the things that I think might be exacerbating my anxiety is my contraceptive pill, which is so commonly taken by women all over the world, and I'm sure you guys watching, you'll all just be taking, you know, so many of you will be taking it and not even think anything of it. But I've come to find that, I mean, what I didn't realise is that my particular one has been associated with increased anxiety and panic attacks, and I just find it fairly staggering that I've been put on that with no kind of thought as to the repercussions. And my doctor hasn't picked up on it. I know GPs are really stressed and they don't have time to go through the full detail sometimes, but I am disappointed that that hasn't been picked up on. So this is going to take me back to my roots, hopefully stop me from getting pregnant because one's enough, people. But yeah, it's really awesome, and I thoroughly encourage anyone to read it, even if you are not having periods. I think it would be useful for anyone around you who is. And she makes a special effort, Maisie Hill, to include trans men who are bleeding as well. She's very, very inclusive. She's got whole chapters on teenagers, she's got chapters on the menopause, she's got chapters on everything. So yeah, give it a whirl. Okay, they've gone away. The builders and diggers have gone away. So actually, should I refilm? I'm going to listen back and see how bad it is. So you might see me again, you might not. Have a lovely day.